Storm Herd for opponent. Uh-oh. I'm not sure if we can beat that, at least without another board wipe. I want to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. If you want to help support the channel and vote on which Kaldheim deck you want me to play next, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. Welcome back, everyone. Playing some Tiana Ship's Caretaker. Today's deck list comes to us from Patreon supporter Kithron. Take a look at this opening hand. So I've gone ahead and kept this hand already. We've got 2 lands and an expedition map, which will get us into our 3rd land. Some Wylith can get us card draw as long as we find an aura to put on it, which shouldn't be too difficult. There are many in this deck. So, seems pretty reasonable. Today's game is going to be a little bit lower powered, although this deck's a little bit weird in that it's generally a low power deck, but it has 1 infinite combo that can end the game. So for me, in my mind, that's always a little bit tricky to evaluate, because most of the things that this deck does otherwise are not crazy impactful to the board. There isn't really a lot of aggro potential with this deck. There's like a teeny bit, but most of the time it's not really what this deck's going to be super well suited to. So it's kind of just hanging in there, waiting to assemble the combo and value a little bit. So yeah, when you're talking about like what is the power level of this deck, for me it's always a little bit weird when you have a deck that is generally not very strong, but has an infinite combo in it that when the combo happens, it ends the game. We'll crack the fetch, grab the plateau, play the expedition map. And it's not to say that people can't do that. It's just a weird thing for me to evaluate in my mind. It's not personally how I really like to play. You know, if I want a combo deck, I'm going to build a halfway decent combo deck, and I would probably build the rest of the deck to support that deck, and then just play that deck at a power level that makes sense for that deck. Where this one's weird because I think what the rest of the deck is doing really does want like a lower power level, so I don't know. It just feels weird to me. It's a little bit uncomfortable. I guess I'll have to deal with it. We draw some lands. Lands are good. I did have to make a few changes. I did try to play this one time yesterday. We draw the homeward path right there, nice and handy. We're going to play the command tower. Yeah, we'll be fine to crack it right now, I think. So we'll crack the expedition map. Grab the Hall of Heliod's Generosity, probably the most impactful land for this deck. But anyway, yeah, so I played this deck one time yesterday. Sadly, that game ended up crashing. There were some really cool moments in that game that I'm very sad that I will not get to show. And it wasn't like the Vorinclex games where things stopped working. It was like the game literally came to a halt and stopped. So that was unfortunate. Anyway, while playing the deck yesterday, I noticed that the deck was cheating on lands like way too much. It was a 32 land deck. The card draw and the ramp were a little bit weird in this deck. So I tinkered with a lot of that stuff because I don't like getting stuck on mana. I don't like running out of cards, so did some fidgeting there. Here, we'll take a quick peek over at the deck. So this deck list came in with 32 lands. I brought it up to 35. That's going to be a much more responsible amount. I've added an Armillary Sphere so we don't get stuck. Normally this would be Gift of Estates, but I've been having a bug with Gift of Estates on Magic Online, so I am forced into Armillary Sphere. In combination with Land Tax and Tithe, that gives us a reasonable ability to turn one card into multiple lands. Which does allow us to run a slightly lower land count. We've added Mana Crypt just because it's easily available on Magic Online, and everyone else is most likely running it. I've added, I think, 1 piece of ramp in the Talisman, and then Sword of the Animist and Dousing Dagger, because those are also fantastic pieces of ramp. There just wasn't a lot of ramp in the deck. The deck does have a lot of natural card draw, especially once you start getting into these like weird aura loops with stuff like Angelic Gift that draws a card on the way in. So it can draw a few cards. It's got a Shram in there. I got that one in yesterday and got some extra card advantage with that. So definitely a few ways to do that, but I did want to smooth out some of that stuff because that's the stuff that's really going to allow a deck to perform much better, is just not getting stuck on your lands, making sure your mana production is on point, and that kind of thing. Anyway, that brings it back to our turn. So let's see what opponents did. So opponents got themselves a Miara, Thorn of the Glade on their second turn. When it or another elf dies, you may pay 1 and a life. If you do, draw a card. It partners. And we've also got a Marwyn the Nurturer in play, a very strong elf. Makes mana equals the number of +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever an elf enters, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Yeah, pretty good. And that's a Lathril Blade of Elves deck being piloted by Sean. And then a Commander Sphere in for Mugen. Okay. With that, that brings us back to our turn. There is the Transcendent Envoy. That's some cost reduction. No auras yet. That's a little awkward, but what can you do? Let's get the Hall of Heliod's Generosity out of our hand just in case. Let's get Wylith into play. If we do find an aura, that'll be a good source of card draw for us. And a few more thoughts on the deck. So our main win condition is going to be Brash Taunter with Guilty Conscience. And that's what's going to allow us to win the game. And what's weird about that is that when we hit that, I feel like the rest of the deck almost isn't going to matter. Like that combo just kind of ends everything. And a lot of the other stuff that these cards do is value-based, but not necessarily game-breaking. It feels weird to me. And the thing is, like, I've been really excited to play this deck. I've been wanting to do Tiana Auras for a long time. I had a deck list built around when this came out, and it was like 145 cards, and I just never spent the time to cut it down to an actual functioning deck. So I am excited to try this, but playing it one time yesterday and looking at it here, I just have like weird vibes about it. And what makes it feel even weirder now is now you have Wyleth as a commander, which, you know, is only very recently available. Obviously, just jamming a bunch of auras on Wyleth is, one, going to give you a big Voltron creature, and two, going to draw you a lot of cards, and is a reasonably efficient plan for trying to win a game. Tiana's game plan is much murkier than that. It's not abundantly clear what you're supposed to be doing. So if this were my deck list, I would certainly handle it differently. There would definitely be more equipments in there. I'd probably have like a Blackblade Reforged, just because I like Blackblade Reforged, and it's a reasonable way to close out the game. I would have Sword, Mask, Dowsing Dagger for sure. I've added 2 of them in here. That's my playstyle personally. The trick with Tiana is, like, do you play bad Voltron? Because playing many of the other flyers in Boros is just going to give you a better Voltron experience. Or do you try to do the value thing? It's all just very strange. I don't know. It's just a weird commander. I have a lot of feelings about it, and I probably drank a little bit too much caffeine before this game, so I've been rambling about it. So enough of that. Anyway, getting caught up on our opponents. We got a Tristani for Poison Sugar. We've got Lathril coming in. I've been seeing this one a little bit, and Lathril, pretty good. And then finally, Ranar the Ever, Watchful. Gonna have to read this one. 4 mana, 2/3, Flying Vigilance. The first card you foretell each turn costs 0 to foretell. Whenever you exile 1 or more cards from your hand or permanents from the battlefield, create a 1/1 spirit creature token with flying. That's kind of cool. Helps you foretell things a little bit more and gives you a little bit of payoff for doing it. So open the armory. Unquestioned Authority. We won't have the mana for Unquestioned Authority this turn. Oh, we could also get Sword of the Animist. Sword of the Animist is going to take 2 turns. Unfortunate. But this is like also the time for Sword of the Animist. That ramp seems so good. We'll go on the card draw plan. So, Angelic Gift gives us flying. Ooh, maybe flying's good enough. Yeah, we'll go for flying. I like that. Play the Homeward Path. Play Angelic Gift. There's a land. Lands are good. Poke the Tristani player. Tristani gains a lot of life. We get to draw an extra card. Ooh, it's an Ancient Tomb. So we've got some mana ramp going. I'm a little sad about not grabbing the Sword of the Animist, but we have ways to ramp Nykthos, Ancient Tomb, cost reduction. It's not like your primary sources of ramp. It's not just having more lands or having mana rocks in play, though there's some mana rocks in the deck, but it'll still help us as long as those things survive. Hedron Archive for opponent. Yep. Ooh, Mimic Vat. There's one you don't see as much of these days. So we'll give Tiana a read, just in case you're not familiar with it. It's not a super popular commander. 5 mana, 3/3, Flying First Strike. Whenever an aura or equipment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So obviously the draw here is that, like, if a board wipe happens and Tiana's in, all of your auras or equipments will come back to your hand at the end step. Super helpful. That's a helpful ability to have, because one of the big problems with auras is that when your creatures die, they go to the graveyard, and you're basically losing that card, which generally makes auras much worse than equipment, because the equipment stay there until someone brings artifact removal. So now, the one thing I did notice, looking through this deck list and just looking through some available options of cards, there are actually a lot of ways to get auras back in white. I counted at least 5 or 6 ways to do it, which is a lot more than I expected, but it's still a hoop that you have to jump through when you're playing auras, where, again, the equipment just stays in there waiting for you. But, you know, the trade-off there is that auras are cheaper mana-wise and generally cheaper to buy in paper, where some equipment are really expensive, and also you have to pay the equip cost, which does eat mana, especially in this early portion of the game. Opponent uses their... Oh, that's a No Mage Shepherd to destroy this Mimic Vat. So Mimic Vat down, no value for opponent. You know, that's a card that used to see a lot of play and just doesn't see as much anymore. It is a little bit slow, but if you get something cool under there, you can do some really wild things. Be really good in like a Zerta deck where you only have to pay 1 to activate it. Anyway, No Mage Shepherd, a pretty nasty card that I'm not super excited to see right here. So I think that means we're probably going to want to get Tiana on our turn. Opponent has foretold a card, and they drop a spirit into play. Gotta wonder if it's Doomscar. There's a Pearl Medallion. That would be helpful if there was not a Nomade Shepherd right there. I think I might wait just a moment on that. That being the case, I think I'm just going to get Tiana this turn. Let's get the Nykthos into play. 1, 2. Devotion isn't crazy yet. Tiana gives us some protection against things going wrong here, so if it is a Doomscar right there, that's actually going to be pretty solid because we would like these elves to get cleaned up. And then we can go on the big ramp turn after that. We'll get the first chance to kind of rebuild, so not awful, not awful. We're going to attack into Sean. He's been playing this deck. He played this deck yesterday too, and this thing just comes out quick. It is surprising how much power it can put onto the battlefield in a very short period of time. I mean, I guess Elves have always kind of been like that, and he's got some good ones in play right now. Marwyn is especially insane. We're going to discard at the end step. We'll get rid of the Plains. Really hoping Mugen wants to drop that board wipe for us. Let's take a look at what our opponents are playing, by the way. So first up, we have Poison Sugar 1, piloting Akiri Lineslinger, and Tekik Salvage Splicer. I believe he said this is going to be a Golem tribal deck, so it should be kind of fun. Tekik, a newer one that says, when it enters the battlefield, create a 3/3 colorless Golem, and in it comes to the battlefield right now, so it's going to ETB. And its other ability says, whenever an artifact is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Tekik and a +1/+1 counter on each Golem you control. So, yeah, kind of a cool little Golem commander if that's the thing that you're looking to do. And then he's got Akiri in there, which will just get big if there's a lot of artifacts in play. Is a nice thing to have around, so not awful. In the middle, we've got Milk and Cheese Sean piloting Lathril, Blade of Elves. Talked about this one a little bit. I've been seeing this one the past couple days, and just spits a lot of elves out. You got to watch out for that tap ability if they get too many. The fact that it hits and makes more elves is kind of ridiculous. Just means there's going to be a lot of elves running around, and you really want some board wipes. In a game yesterday, Championathon was in the game and took a hit for like almost 30 on turn 6. And it wasn't like it was a crazy start. It was just like elves being elves. I don't think there was a mana crypt involved or anything like that. It was just, nope. Cast a couple elves, swing a couple times, take 30. Elves are a weird tribe too in that, like, I would say like half of the elves ever printed make mana. So every creature you play also makes you more mana until you eventually find the like couple creatures that kind of bring it all home for you. A lot of the times it's Craterhoof, but let's see what this thing is. Beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. Whenever another elf enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to its toughness. Yep, those are all things. And now we've got each opponent loses X life, where X is the greatest number of something. Greatest numbers of creatures you control that have a creature type in common. That was a lot. Looks like about 9 down to 31. Maybe it's about 8. I think we cracked a fetch. Yeah. I really hope this is a Doomscar. Elf coming our way. It's got menace, so we can't block it. Sad. We take 2 damage. They get 2 more elves. Marwyn and Wolverine Riders trigger. Yep, gaining life, making more elves. Marwyn getting bigger. Wow, 8 counters on it. They've only got 2 cards in hand, so if a board wipe happens, they're actually going to be really low on cards. Elf power, he says. There's a Curse of Swine. That's something. So, gonna exile the Marwyn, the Wolverine Riders, the Nomade Shepherd. That's a step in the right direction. I'm guessing the exile card was not a Doom Foretold, because that seemed like a pretty easy line of play if it was. Opponent's gonna pop this Hedron Archive on the way out with the Nomade Shepherd, and that'll trigger the Tekik. It's gonna pump up the golems and itself. Ranar the Ever Watchful. Yeah, they're gonna get a bunch of 1/1 white spirits out of the deal because they're exiling a bunch of things. Now the problem is there's a whole bunch of 2/2s in play. Like, there's just a lot of bodies over here. It's kind of scary. Opponent gonna send Ranar over to Sean. There's an Armillary Sphere. Luckily, we've done all right with lands up to this point, so we don't need it super badly, but we'll see. We'll see if we can get that into play this turn. Let's play the Ancient Tomb, play the Pearl Medallion. I'm going to attack first, see if we draw anything cool. That's a Return to Dust. Not incredibly helpful in this moment, but at some point maybe. Down to 38. Let's get the Transcendent Envoy into play, paying a single white. This is tricky. I want to leave up Teferi's protection mana, but yeah, as long as the Pearl Medallion doesn't get shot, we'll be fine. So I'm just going to play the Armillary Sphere right here. And we'll pass like that. You know, here's a legitimate question. Would I use the Teferi's protection on a creature-only board wipe right here? I honestly don't know. If it's like artifacts and enchantments, absolutely. But if it's creatures only, I'm not sure yet. There's a Parallel Lives. That has the potential to get scary. There's Akiri Lineslinger. Tristani trigger. Tristani is really good. Gains so much life with it. Opponent's up to 37. Is this toughness? Yeah, it's toughness. Yeah, if someone wipes the board, Sean is actually really behind on lands. It's turn 7 and he's on 4 lands. Most of his mana is coming from creatures, and that would crush him. We have a few board wipes in our deck, but it's not like a crazy heavy board wipe kind of deck. Eye Blight colors. When it dies, create 3 elf tokens, then mill 3 cards. No attacks from opponent. Everyone has a few blockers up, so like they would definitely lose a bunch of things if they went in somewhere. They're also out of cards. Ooh, they might be able to activate Lathril, though. Yeah, maybe that's what they're doing. Yeah, I think they have exactly enough to activate Lathril, if I counted right. See, that's scary, because that's the type of thing that can just, like, end you, and pretty hard to interact with that. Ideally, we could find some life gain. Soul Herder. Cool card. Basically a Conjurer's Closet. It gets bigger when it exiles stuff. I don't think they have anything really interesting worth exiling. My guess is that this is the protection spell. The Angel, Glorious Protector. So even if it were a board wipe, I don't know if they're going to be losing anything. Although, was it exile stuff? So they wouldn't get the tokens back. I guess that's fine. But opponent gonna poke in with the 3/4. Yep, it's got Vigilance. Soul Herder End Step trigger. Gonna bounce that thing. We'll crack our Armillary Sphere. Oh, that pumps up the Tekik. Yeah, any graveyard. Doesn't matter who controls the artifact. We'll get 2 lands, get plains, get a mountain. The thing comes back, and that triggers Ranar the Ever Watchful. More spirits. Plus the Soul Herder trigger. Oh, land is not what we were looking for. Ugh. Could use a big draw right here. Swing with the Wylith. Make sure there's no flyers over here. Doesn't appear to be. So we go on the attack into Sean. Wylith trigger. There's a Spirit Mantle. He takes a hit for 2. Play the Bloodstained Mire. Crack the Bloodstained Mire. Get a Sacred Foundry untapped. I'm going to play a Spirit Mantle on Tiana. Then I'm going to activate Nykthos. Get a bunch of white mana. It's 5 white mana. Not too bad. Get this Arden into play. Get Umbra Mystic into play. And we will pass like that. So next turn we can move the Spirit Mantle over to Wylith to get more card draw going, which I'm probably going to do. But for the time being, with the Totem Armor thing in play, Umbra Mystic, this gives an additional layer of protection to Tiana. Like, ideally, if we don't have to use the Teferi's protection, we won't. I kind of wish we had an Aura in our opening hand, because I really would have liked to have saved that Open the Armory. Girid's Belligerence. Not on my radar. Let's give this one a read. X is 4. Deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures. Whenever a creature dealt this way dies, populate. Interesting. Oh. So they're shooting 4 1/1s. They're going to populate 4 times. Pretty cool. About to have a whole bunch of golems over there. One thing we didn't calculate for, we just talked about this in the chat, that these are not elves. So he's actually about 3 elves short, give or take. Which is why he's not activating right here. He attempted to do it and could not. They must be elves. Opponent's going to populate 4 times. That's also going to be 4 Miara triggers. They'll be able to draw 1. Better than 0. This is a situation where you want to have those lands. If they were on 7 lands, they'd be getting a couple extra. I was talking to Mugen in the chat, and he did say that this is the Foretell Precon. I don't know exactly what's in the Precon, but usually they don't give you a lot of board wipes in the Precon, so probably not a Doomscar right there. But looking at our board state right now, our board state is like slightly comparable to the Ranars. So like if you're trying to gauge the power level of this deck, it's like probably about Precon level, maybe a little bit above, just because, you know, powerful stuff like a Teferi's Protection, and we do have that combo in there, which the Precon isn't going to have by itself, but we also aren't generating value the same way that they are. They're going to keep slowly making tokens, and those tokens will be an issue at some point. But yeah, opponent gets all those populate triggers, and oh my, we've got a whole bunch of golems, and Tristani has put them up to 61 life. We can probably leave Sean alone for a little while now. Tristani taking over the game. It will do that. I was talking to a Patreon supporter, EK. We played his Saskia Wild Pair deck on stream the other night that's heavily based on Spike Feeder Jim's Saskia Wild Pair deck. And one of the things we talked about is adding a Tristani to the deck. He said he added it, and he just immediately gained so much life that it was absolutely insane. Tristani is a very good, and I think somewhat underrated card. I think people undervalue just how good gaining a lot of life can be. There's a Putrefy from opponent on the Tekik. I would go on the Tristani. They can just recast that. Unless they're planning to wipe the board and get rid of all the stuff, but I would get rid of the Tristani. It's going to be a long uphill battle. Oh, all those things were doubled, by the way? Yeah, maybe we should have fired off Return to Dust. Kind of waiting for a second good target. Beast Whisperer into play. That's a good one for an elf deck. Flicker Wisp for opponent. Cool card. Hope they don't flicker our stuff. Could also start eating some tokens with it. Gonna start eating some tokens. I'm down with that. There's a lot of power of golems over there. Ranar is gonna trigger. Soul Herder is gonna get a counter because of the exile. Ooh, that's a windfall from opponent. I'm sad to lose Teferi's protection, but we do need a better hand. I'm gonna return to dust the Parallel Lives. This will also give opponents one less card, which is probably a good idea, but also one less card for us. This is an interesting hand. Enlightened Tutor, Auramancer, Winds of Wrath, Mesa Enchantress. Fairy's protection is down. Not the best. So Enlightened Tutor for something, probably put that something on Arden. Opponent's gonna send some spirits over that way. Oh, the question is, so I get it, there's some stuff on board. I don't know if it's time to Winds of Wrath yet. Like, we could, but being that the life total... there's also a Tristani. Tristani means they keep gaining the life back, so maybe we do. Maybe we do. Soul Herder trigger. Ranar trigger. Although, high likelihood they just send all these golems over that way. In a higher power game, I would play this board wipe. Because this game is a bit lower power, I am tempted to not do that. I am, however, going to cast this Enlightened Tutor and try to find something cool right here. Unquestioned Authority is nice because it draws a card. Claws of Gix gives us a sack outlet. That's actually kind of cool. Then we can do the Angelic Gift thing. Although in the scheme of card draw, we would sacrifice it. It comes back at the end step. It's pretty slow card draw. Gift of Immortality is an immensely cool magic card. Sage's Reverie gives us a lot of card draw. That might be the one. Well, it gives us 2 card draw. And then it pumps things up a little bit, which is cool. Again, none of it, like, I think I'm figuring out what the problem is, and I'll talk about it a little bit after. All that glitters gives us power, which seems kind of nice. Artifact and enchantments. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of those. That would be the 5th one, so actually be like moderately meaningful damage. Ultula's Orders, destroy artifacts. Guilty Conscience if we want to set up the combo. I don't think we're quite there yet. Anything that gives lifelink. Here's one thing to think about. We're actually bleeding life a little bit, which could be a reason for Claws of Gix. I think I'm going to go for All That Glitters just because it gives us some kind of power. Put All That Glitters on Wylith. It's a 7/7. Go to combat. Arden trigger. Make sure I click this right. At the beginning of your turn, you may attach 2 target permanent or player. Choosing Wylith. Maybe drawing 2 is fine. Yeah, I think we're better off protecting Tiana because I do think I want to wipe after. So we'll just leave all that there. We'll be sad to lose some of this stuff, though. Swing into the Golem opponent. Draw with Wylith, a Gift of Immortality, and Talisman. I think now is the right time to Winds of Wrath, so we're just going to do it. I was debating on holding off and like trying to play that game, but with Teferi's protection down, don't love it so much. We use the Ancient Tomb even though we shouldn't. There's 8 white mana. Cast Winds of Wrath. Whole bunch of things getting blown up. Oh, I guess we could have played Gift of Immortality first and saved something. Whoops. That was a big whoops. Got greedy with the card draw because I wanted to go Mesa Enchantress first. I guess we can get back the Transcendent Envoy. Although I don't know that that's like the most impactful of all the things. So maybe we just let that go. Cost reduction's nice, but we've already got one piece of it. Miara triggers. They can draw a little bit. Opponent mills 3. Gets 3 elves. Play the Talisman. Play Mesa Enchantress. Play Gift of Immortality on Wylith. Draw a card with the Enchantress. It's a Path of Exile. And we will pass like that. So we cleared out a lot of stuff from our opponents. That's probably the key. We did lose a few pieces that I like from us, but we have a Savine's Reclamation in the deck. We have a Sun Titan. All the things we lost do come back with those cards. And if we can just keep Wylith alive, keep drawing with Wylith, that'll eventually run us into the things we need. Tekik back to play. It's going to make a golem. Opponent said, well, there goes all my hard work. Yep. Board wipes be like that. Bringing back an enchantment would allow us to draw another card. Could be relevant. We'll see what we draw. If we can ideally catch an aura off the top, that might be... Ooh, you know what we can do? We can Hall of Heliod's Generosity, the Transcendent Envoy to the top, which will get us a card draw with the Mesa Enchantress and not have to use our Auramancer. Moldervine Reclamation for opponent. Whenever a creature you control dies, you gain a life, draw a card. Well, they wanted that last turn. One turn late on that. Sky Diamond. Marble Diamond. Seagate Oracle. Opponent does not have to reveal that one. Alright, so when you use Hall of Heliod's Generosity, put Transcendent Envoy back on top. Draw the Envoy. Cast the Envoy. Enchantress will trigger. There's a land. We'll attack the Golem player. Send in Wylith. Leave back Tiana. Tiana's a reasonable blocker. Wylith trigger. We're going to draw 3 cards. There's some stuff. Chosen by Heliod. Faith Healer. and a Clifftop Retreat. Opponent takes a hit, goes down to 32. We'll play the Clifftop Retreat. Play Chosen by Heliod. I guess we'll just keep stacking Wylith. Mesa Enchantress. There's a Soul Tithe. We could Soul Tithe this. I feel bad because they got hit with a lot of removal and didn't have a ton of card draws, so, you know, letting that go I'm sure they wouldn't love. We'll hold on to this for a turn. Play the Faith Healer. Is there an Urborg in play? No Urborg's in play. We'll play the Faith Healer and sit on everything else. Faith Healer can get us card draw. That does seem nice. Also life gain. Life gain seems also good in this moment. Pass like that, I think. So this is kind of the engine. You get one of the things that allows you to sacrifice enchantments, and you can get a little bit of value with Tiana. It's awkward because it's at the end step. Also, Tiana being 5 mana is just, it's not the best. If it were 4 mana, probably be much better. Also, its stats are kind of low. It's a 3/3 naturally for 5 mana, which just, it's a little bit underwhelming. Ooh, Sunbird's Invocation for opponent. That's a place to spend this Soul Tithe. Twin Blade Assassins at the beginning of your end step. If a creature died this turn, draw a card. So, what's interesting here is they have the 1/1s. I would have just sent the 1/1 our way. Like, I probably would have blocked it, because getting low on life. Creatures die, they'll be gaining life and drawing cards. That sounds like a thing I'd like to be doing. And I'm sure a thing they'd like to be doing. Stormherd for opponent. Uh-oh. I'm not sure if we can beat that, at least without another board wipe. That's going to be 28 1/1s. Well, that's a thing. Better find a board wipe. I guess maybe we can race them with the enchantment sacking. I don't know, we'll see. So I want to sack some enchantments. Let's use the Faith Healer right here. Sacrifice the Spirit Mantle just because I want to get it back and put it on the Wylith. Sacrifice the Heliod thing because it draws cards. Sacrifice Angelic Gift because it draws cards. I think that's going to get us, what, 6 life back? We're going to get our things back at the end step. So all of our stuff comes back. Back up to 26. There's a Plains. Play a Plains. Play Angelic Gift. I'm going to put Angelic Gift on the Mesa Enchantress because the flying is relevant. I know it won't draw with the Wylith, but it doesn't really add power to Wylith, and we're already going to draw a bunch of cards anyway, so. There's a land tax. Draw a card. Land. Spirit Mantle on Wylith. Heliod's Intervention. We can gain a bunch of life, keep ourselves alive. Could be handy. Soul Tithe. Opponent's not going to like this, but I'm going to put it on their Sunbird's Invocation. Sorry, opponent. Ethereal Armor. Real card. Ethereal Armor on Wylith. Recruiter of the Guard. 19. It's getting up there. Seen by Heliod. Draw a card. Land. 21 damage. They can't block it. I'm going to go poke this bear. I really hope this Stormherd sticks, because if we got to lose this game, I'm losing this game to a Stormherd. That's what's happening. We did not draw a board wipe. Oh, we could go for the combo, though. Assuming we have the colors. I think we do. Opponent takes a giant hit, goes down to 7. Play the Mana Crypt. Yeah, I mean, I guess we gotta play it. We gotta do the deck justice. I really want to see this Stormherd stick and win the game, but gotta play the deck how it's meant to be played. So activate Nykthos for a bunch of white mana. 13 white mana, play the Recruiter of the Guard. Get Brash Taunter. Play the Brash Taunter, use this thing, lose a life. Guilty Conscience on the Brash Taunter. Ooh, I don't think we have the red mana to make it fight something. Well, there's a route. Can we get a red mana somewhere? Need to deal damage to the... I played a land earlier this turn that I shouldn't have played. Could always route if we need to. What would happen if all this stuff died? Does that do anything? Well, I guess we play this route, because we can't do anything else. Holding priority, we're going to activate Faith Healer a whole bunch of times. Sacrifice that thing. This thing. Sacrifice all these. Not the Gift of Immortality. There's the route. Bunch of things getting blown up. Tiana to the command zone. One's going to draw a bunch of cards, gain a bunch of life. Gift of Immortality trigger. We've got mana left. Let's get this land tax out of our hand. 1 white mana left. Could Auramancer. Don't feel like we really need to. 11 cards in hand, we'll just discard some lands. Oh, we're going to have a lot more cards in hand. Return all the stuff. Gift of Immortality reattaches to the Wylith. All the stuff comes back. Discard, we're up to 16 cards. Don't need another fetch, I don't think. Discard this Chosen by Heliod. Discard that thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Gotta discard. Probably one more enchantment. Ethereal Armor seems easy enough to get back. Pass the turn. Soul Tithe trigger for opponent. Opponent lets their Sunbirds go. We lose the Soul Tithe because Tiana no longer in play. Hammer of Purphoros. Each player sacrifices 2 creatures that will get rid of our Brash Taunter. Down it goes. Combo has been thwarted. Gift of Immortality trigger. Wyleth comes back. The combo has been fizzled. We didn't have red mana. Also, I think it has to tap, right? Yeah, it does have to tap, so that wouldn't have necessarily got us there either. It does need haste. The haste lands would be helpful. I added them in yesterday, but I think I forgot to put them in today because I kind of started fresh with the list when I was looking at it. Lisalana Scarblade coming in. I don't know if there's a way to get that Brash Taunter back. We have to get to Dominaria. We're only on 3 planes. It's going to be a long time before we get to 7 planes plus Dominaria. I don't think there's a Burnished Heart in this deck either. Gift of Immortality coming back. Back onto the Wyleth. If you put a Gift of Immortality on a Burnished Heart or a Solemn Simulacrum, it's a pretty good time. You need a sack outlet with the Solemn Simulacrum, but with the Burnished Heart, you don't. That'll get you to 7 planes real quick. Ranar the Ever watchful. Back to play. Looks like they have foretold another card. Replication Ring coming in. Mana Crypt flip on us. Let's go Tails. Won the flip. I'm going to Hall of Heliod's Generosity, a thing back to our hand. Let's get the Ethereal Armor. That gives us damage. Ooh, maybe I should have got the Transcendent Envoy. Play the Emeria. Angelic Gift. Draw a card. Oratog. Spirit Mantle. Yeah, I think it's a good time to activate the Nykthos. We'll get 5 white out of it. Seems good. I guess maybe we can wait. No, that actually seems pretty good. We'll do it now. Get the Nykthos. Ethereal Armor. All that glitters. Actually, I want to see if I can get Tiana back first. We can. Make sure our auras stay protected. All that glitters. Now we've got 18 damage on this Wyleth. That's pretty reasonable. I guess we cast Oratog, so we can sack and draw, do that whole thing. We can take out Mugen. We'll probably pay the price for not doing that, but I'll attack Sean right now. Wyleth, draw a bunch of cards. The process can get faster next turn with Rayav, assuming everything sticks. Cut him in half, he goes to 17. Cast the Claws of Gix, and pass like that. Maul Splicer is going to make some golems. They're going to come in with haste. Return upon the tide. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. If it's an elf, create 2 elves in the process. Getting back the Beast Whisperer. Yep, that's a good one. Sylvan Messenger coming in. Enters, reveal the top 4, look for some elves, draw a card. Replication Ring trigger. Ooh, Angel of Finality. I think we're about to lose our graveyard. No. Goes for the Tekik opponent. Interesting. That would have hit us, personally. Opponent coming in with a 2-3. Okie dokie. Opponent looks like they've been holding up a Swords or a Path for a while, but they didn't Swords the Brash Taunter, so I don't know if they're just faking it. We'll block. We've got flying and first strike. Oh, I see what's happening. Opponent's going to give our thing -X, where X is the number of elves. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, it is going to die. I don't think there's anything we could do about that. Back to the command zone. Opponent's going to draw a card with the Commander Sphere. Signet. Stoic Farmer. Going to get some planes. Back to our turn. Mana Crypt flip. Tails. Lost. Soul Ring. Play the Soul Ring. Shram. Rayav. I guess Auramancer, get a thing to draw some cards? Auramancer. Yeah, bring back Chosen by Heliod. Draw 2 cards. Cast Chosen by Heliod. I think we're at a point where we can activate the Nykthos. 11 white mana is quite a bit. Actually, I'm going to wait till after combat to do that, I think. Chosen by Heliod on the Rayav. Ooh, there's a Dragon Mantle. Draw a card. Swords to Plowshares. Dragon Mantle on this Oratog, I guess. We're running low on colors, though. Yeah, I guess we stop right there. Go to combat. Gonna take down Sean. Gonna get double strike and draw a lot. There's a lot of lands. There's a Savine's Reclamation. We're down to 30 cards in the library. We have drawn a lot of cards. Sean goes down. Play the Mistveil Plains. Play Mentor of the Meek. Actually, now's a good time to activate the Nykthos. 12 white mana. Mentor of the Meek. Get Tiana. I don't know if there's like that much else that I'm looking to do right now. Oh, I know what we can do. Next turn, we can end it with the combo again. We can Mistveil, Taunter back to the bottom, Savine's Reclamation, the Recruiter, and yeah, that'll work. Okay. Got a plan to speed this game up. It is getting a little long. I guess discard Dragon Mantle. Akiri Lineslinger, back to play. It's a 3-3 with haste. Opponent passes Replication Ring, trigger. Sun Titan. Oh, Sun Titan could be annoying right here. Flicker Wisp, flicker our thing? No, it's got protection from creatures. Thankfully. Whew. Getting the Empyrean Eagle. Yep. Ranar coming in. I think we'll just take down to 26. Mana Crypt flip. Choose Tails. Won the flip. Hall of Heliod's Generosity. The Guilty Conscience. Swing into our opponent. Wyleth trigger. Rayav trigger. With that on the stack, I'm going to Mistveil Plains. Brash Taunter back to the bottom. We draw a lot of cards. Oh, there's a Reliquary Tower. I don't think we played a land yet. Oh, that's not going to kill opponent. I just realized that. Oh, no, yeah, it will. That's 40 damage. Down they go! One opponent left. Play the Reliquary Tower. Reclamation Sage on the Recruiter. Monastery Mentor triggers. Recruiter. Yes. Brash Taunter. Cast the Taunter. Pass like that. Replication Ring. We should probably Swords of Sun Titan. It's a thing we should do. Swords of Sun Titan. Whole bunch of things trigger. Opponent scoops right there. Yeah, seeing what's coming. Okay, so this deck. I figured out why I feel weird about this deck. As we kind of saw in this game, Wyleth was the star more than anything. Wyleth drew us a lot of cards and kind of kept us going. Without Wyleth, we definitely would have gotten stuck. Which also means that I would love to get some wheels into this deck, or just some other type of red card draw, anything that's going to let us draw more cards. Right now there's a few of the Enchantress type cards, but you really got to have those, so I would add just a few more red impulse draw type things just to make sure you don't get stuck. I would also love a little bit more removal, like maybe one more board wipe, maybe a Magma Quake, something that doesn't hit flyers, since a lot of the deck is flying. You know, maybe another piece of spot removal as well. The problem becomes, I probably had a Burnish Shard too for the Gift of Immortality thing we talked about, because that's always fun. But the problem becomes that doing all that cuts down on the amount of auras you can run. What I found is each aura is not individually very impactful. There's a couple good ones. Spirit Mantle, Gift of Immortality is decent for some shenanigans, and like Unquestioned Authority is impactful, and then you have like 2 or so that do damage, like All That Glitters and Ethereal Armor. The rest of them just don't change the state of the game that much, and that becomes the problem. Like, they don't do huge amounts of damage, they don't generate lots of value. They kind of have these small effects, so the problem becomes you need a lot of these auras, and it just means you need to look at a lot of cards, and you also need to not get your board blown up while that's happening. So the one thing I'd like to point to, when we casted the Winds of Wrath, if this were Aurelia and we wiped the board with 2 creatures and, like, let's just say, I think we had about 4 or 5 auras. Let's say those 4 or 5 auras were equipment instead. If that's Aurelia right there, we basically win the game from that spot very quickly. This deck doesn't punch that hard, so it still took us a while after that. And yeah, that's what I feel weird about, is that because each card is not individually impactful, it means that you need to look at a lot of cards, and it puts a lot of stress on the other parts of your deck to make sure you draw a lot of cards and that you can blow things up from your opponents, because if they're playing impactful cards, it's going to be an issue for you. And then there's Tiana herself, which her ability is cool, but it's not insanely powerful. If it like brought it back immediately, you could really get a lot more card draw going with some things, and that would be good. So, like, you know, you could sack your Dragon Mantle, recast your Dragon Mantle, and that'd be some pretty legit card draw. But the fact that it's at the end of turn means it's tough to get a ton of value out of it. You can get a little bit, but so it kind of keeps Tiana from really being the star of the show, because it just doesn't do as much as a lot of commanders do these days. So it's a little overcosted. Its stats are a little bit low. Its ability is a little bit slow. If it was like main phase, well, you could do that. So much cooler. And this is all to say that, like, I enjoyed playing the deck, and I'm glad I got to play it, because it's been something that's on my mind for a while. But as I've now played 2 games with it, these are the feelings that I've had. It's not a high-tier commander. This game was essentially at the pre-con level, slightly above pre-con, and it didn't exactly crush at that power level. So, you know, the main reason we won the game, I think, is because I put all that extra mana production in there, and just we were able to produce a lot more mana, especially through the mid-game. Opponents kind of caught up to us in the late game. We stalled on lands a little bit, but through the mid game, we were producing significantly more mana than our opponents, and I think that was the key. So I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. It's a fun little thing to build. Probably not terribly expensive. I'm sure you could hash out a budget build that doesn't look too different from what you see here. Obviously, you know, drop the Mana Crypt, drop 1 or 2 other things, but ultimately, it's not an insanely powerful type of commander. You know, if you're looking to play auras, I'd say Wyleth or Rayav are going to give you more bang for your buck. In that Rayav gives you damage and Wyleth gives you tons of card draw. So I think that's just a much better place to be if you're really looking to do the aura thing. But it is interesting. The one thing that we didn't do a lot of here, which I kind of thought about a little bit, I think an interesting way to build this deck would be like Prison Term Tribal. You basically use all of the auras that are removal spells against your opponent, and then just play a bunch of Boros good stuff that, like, you would normally play in some other equipment deck or something like that. And so you can kind of use Tiana as this platform for repeatable removal. I think that could be an interesting way to explore with this deck. I don't know that it's significantly stronger than what we're doing here. It's definitely more interactive and it'll be better against opponents having stronger decks if you're just, locking down all their value pieces and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the main thing, you know what the main thing is? When you look at a green Enchantress deck, there's like 6 or 7 green cards that all draw cards for being Enchantress stuff. There are significantly less in white, and they're generally more restrictive in that a lot of times they have to be auras when you're casting it. So that's a big part of the problem, where when you play a green Enchantress deck, you can have a lot of enchantments and you will draw a lot of your deck pretty easily, and there's a lot of redundancy there. You don't have that same level of redundancy. Each card doesn't have the same level of impact. So all of that kind of leads to it's just not as strong of a deck as it could be as a lot of other things that are out there right now. But if you want to play it, don't let me stop you. It's certainly a fun little thing to tinker with, but definitely not the most powerful. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching. I want to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. If you want to help support the channel and vote on which decks I play next, feel free to check out my Patreon, the link below.